Morning.
Morning, guys. What a sad, sad day it is. And lots of you, I know, on the channel have been wanting us to comment on the Caroline FLACK horror suicide. It's kind of sweet because if you think because of the connection to Love Island, and I do Love Island, love Love Island and always have. I didn't know Caroline FLACK, never met Caroline FLACK, but of course a lot of people that I know Caroline FLACK, and I know that people are absolutely devastated.
What was the shock of it? Because I mean, we found out last night, when I saw the headlines come through, I literally couldn't believe it. And yet, I hate to say this, a friend of ours was here, Simone. As I walked into the room, I remember thinking at the time that the story broke, everyone needs to be really, really careful here. And I just had a fear. I had a sort of suicide watch feeling.
What about Caroline
About
FLACK?
Caroline FLACK. And this isn't like hindsight.
Yeah,
You know, I don't
yeah.
share these thoughts all the time, especially around the girls, because you don't want to be suggesting that suicide is such a common thing. We've been blighted by it, unfortunately, too many times. And so when the story broke, I didn't want to appear sensationalist just within this environment of the family. But I remember thinking, I don't feel happy about this because, you know, there was just something about her and the way the story broke and the way the story was managed and how I saw her reported and how I saw her conduct herself in the immediate aftermath of it that suggested, I don't know why, I just kept thinking of, what's the name of the woman who used to go out with Hutchins? I just felt there was there was not chaos, I felt there was a chaos around it, emotional chaos around it.
Well, because you know a lot about depression. You know a lot about, and we talk to you guys a lot here about, you know, about depression, about anxiety, about how these, about the building, it's the building up of loss. That's what I see. That's what I see. And I'm not, and I want to keep saying I don't know Caroline FLACK, and I, you know, but anybody can see that this was one thing after another that was piling up for her.
Yeah.
Suicide is an incredibly complex thing, and no one thing is going to be the reason that anybody's taken their life. And I think that it has been oversimplified in some places.
I do think the danger, and I mean, we've had experience of this in the last year where we've lost 2 people.
Well, in our lives,
in our lives,
we've
through suicide.
lost.
In total, we've lost more than that.
And more than that, we've lost 5 people to suicide.
Yeah.
So.
And in all instances, the terrible
complex.
sadness of what happens straight afterwards is, unfortunately, and it's not born of meanness or blame or any of that sort of thing.
It's born of horror.
It's born of horror, but everyone starts to frantically try and assign the reason to as comprehensible a reason as possible. And I think this is one of my biggest concerns around mental health issues, suicide, because for anyone to take their life, it's very easy to identify that thing or one thing and somehow make that entirely responsible for it, which doesn't help in many regards the people who end up being blamed or feel like they're part of the blame or part of the responsibility, because it's, you know, no one, I think we have to assume that everyone operates in life not assuming someone's going to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's always the most terrible shock.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when my ex killed himself, I couldn't have been more shocked. I just couldn't have been more shocked. I still think 20 years later, I still don't 100% believe it. Not 100%. And every time I hear of a suicide, there's a little unpeeling of the onion, another layer of it, where I go, that did happen. So my heart really is breaking for all the people that knew her, because it's day one. It's day one of the longest journey of acceptance. I think. Sorry, do you want to say
No. I was just going to say. I mean, where I was a bit breathless with disbelief and not surprised, if you know what I mean, all at the same time last night. I did come in and I said, at what point did anyone think nothing awful was going to happen if you remove her profession, though I understand ITV were actually in discussions for her to come back,
And apparently every single person has said that she did step down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't.
I think
we
it was
don't
managed.
Know,
Yeah, I think
we
it was
don't-
managed.
Yeah, we don't know the truth
No.
on certain things. We can only go with what we absolutely know,
No,
can't we?
absolutely. But at what point? So she knows she's done damage, or what's happening has done damage to her professional career.
Yeah.
And then the CPS decides to enforce a separation. So she's been personally isolated. She feels professionally isolated. And at what point?
She must have been financially worried as well. Just
Well,
to, I mean, I don't know.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
There would have been that
But-
too. But, you know, so all those considerations for a woman at 40, she's thinking her whole life is potentially falling down around her. She'd also, you know, there was also this pressure on her to plead guilty and all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, if you don't, it's like when I was done for drink driving, you know, if you plead a not guilty plea and they think you're just going to be found guilty, you're going to get a more severe sentence. So, but without getting into the nitty gritty of all of that, she clearly felt she was she was a woman in a hole. She was absolutely in a hole. And, you know, the idea that someone can keep taking all of this, and the thing that really affects me, and I was listening to someone say this on the news last night, is that domestic abuse, if this is a domestic abuse case, though we don't know that yet, we don't know the details, we don't know
We
that.
just want to be so clear in this film that everything that we say, we don't know.
We don't know.
I think a lot of hearsay and gossip and
absolutely.
all of that will have played a big part in her demise as well.
My fear with Caroline Flack is that she was becoming almost, in a really horrible way, the poster girl, the public poster girl of the CPS and the authorities somehow being seen to deal with domestic violence from a woman to a man in as strong and efficient a way as possible. But I think in that sense, she became a little bit kind of, not hounded, but a little bit made too much of an example of.
Well, here's the thing. Domestic violence against men is a real thing. Again, we do not know what happened in the privacy of hers and her boyfriend's home. But what he has said over and over again is, and actually let's read his
his
post
Instagram
today.
Post,
He said, "My heart is broken and we had something so special. I'm so lost for words. I'm in so much pain. I miss you so much. I know you felt safe with me. You always said, I don't think about anything else when I'm with you. And I was not allowed to be there. This time, I kept asking and asking. I will be your voice, baby. I will promise. I will ask all the questions you wanted and I will get all the answers. Nothing will bring you back, but I will try and make you proud every day. I love you with all my heart." Now, it seems that the CPS had forbidden them any contact. Now, it's also out there that she was depressed and not on antidepressants. Again, we don't know if she was on antidepressants. But living with mental health illness in this household, and a lot of you having mental health
issues.
Can you imagine if you were in a crisis
and you were enforced isolated,
and then you're enforced not to see me,
and
then did they just go through the standard
procedure,
one size fits all. Like once somebody has been in a domestic violence situation, and should we have sympathy for the CPS because they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't? They might let somebody see somebody where there's been a domestic violence charge, and then, you know, whatever went on, we don't know. It seems incredibly tragic, and I feel so sorry for her boyfriend and for her friend. We don't know whether it was a man or a woman that was in the house who popped to the shops. And the other thing I want to make really clear, because certainly when we've lost people to suicide, the thing that people so often will say is, how selfish of that person. How selfish of that person. How selfish of that person to do that to all these people that left behind. It doesn't work like that. Suicide isn't that. People that commit suicide, honestly, most times believe that they are doing a better thing for the people that are left behind because they feel like they're such a burden.
What you have to understand is mental health can take you to a place of feeling such a burden, and that other people's lives are only bad or being destroyed, or you know, because of their contribution to them, because of what they've done, and because of how now, you know, again, this is all hearsay, but I suppose the thing that I'm getting really frustrated about with this, and one can only talk about the sense of things and the feeling about things, and this is a sense. I don't, you know, this isn't about apportioning blame, but the sense I get from it, and I don't follow you know, I haven't followed this story in great detail, though I had a sense of it, as most of us do, and my sense of this was of a woman being increasingly isolated, and it felt like her being made an example of too overtly. I don't
because
think
she was famous.
Because she was famous, and this does get to me a little bit sometimes, that just because someone has some public profile doesn't mean, I hate to quote Shakespeare, you're not made of flesh and blood.
Yeah.
You really,
Also, you know, she has been absolutely vilified. You know, everything. It seems to have been okay to just say whatever you want
Feeding
about
frenzy.
Caroline Flack, and that's what I'm hearing from all her friends that are posting comments. That this who would have known her behind closed doors and known the impact. You know, words are incredibly powerful things. That's why we are talking very, very carefully through this, because we don't want to say something that then's taken this way and taken that way. But people have been actively very, very cruel to her. You know, this, I don't even want to repeat this stuff, because then again you're fueling it.
No.
But memes and tweets and terrible articles, and I think it's been incredibly sexist, the reporting on her, and I think she had a really, really bad run. And I think there are a lot of people that may be hanging their head in shame today, and I think be kind on social media as well. You know, a lot of people will, and we have the best community here. I think we have the best. We have a couple of, but we have the best. But out there on Twitter, on Instagram, and these places, and some publications don't realise how deep it cuts.
And also the thing and there's numbers below for you to contact for anyone, because I want this
Nobody
message.
knows how much. What's that line, Mark? Nobody knows how much somebody could be silently screaming.
No, absolutely.
So you can say something to somebody and not know what impact it's going to have.
And that's why I feel deeply uncomfortable about this, because there comes a point that even if I, not a fan of Love Island in the way that Nadia is and of this world, if I'm sensing just from the way I'm seeing the reporting in the tabloids that there's a woman under assault in a hole, and it's being, you know, she's being more and more is being piled on her. She's being isolated more and more. Something somewhere's going to give, and I hate to invoke this, but someone I was speaking to last night invoked a comparison to the Amy Winehouse story, and I do worry when there's a sort of almost a death drive at work somewhere in the ether that wants this narrative to unfold because it fucking sells papers. That's how I feel.
And it sells hate if you're on social media, and it sells, people have a need to see people sometimes that are successful, and I'm not just talking about within our industry. You could just have that locally, you could have that with your friends, you could have that within your family. People that don't like to see somebody else shine and want to dampen that. And I just think this is a real day for reflection and for us to think about, where are we mean? Do you know what I'm thinking? We were out last night, but I think I would have spent a lot more time last night thinking about it if we hadn't been out. But I'm thinking and feeling ashamed of where I might have been unkind to people. Not Caroline, as I said, I never know her, but where I might have been just a bit unkind, or where I might have said something that wasn't necessary. You know, where I might have been gossipy or bitchy. I think we just have to think.
Yeah, you have to. Now, there is a phrase in rehab that says gossip kills. And I've never seen yet or felt, potentially, other than Amy Winehouse, a story where that could become applicable to it in such an overt way.
Amy Winehouse is a really good comparison.
It is a good comparison, and I think
she was well when.
And the other thing to bear in mind is that, again, going back to what we were saying about no one is responsible individually. They're not. No one should go seek it. It's complex for the person, but it's complex in terms of what everyone's been like around the person. It is a moment to reflect on how just our individual voices or individual positions of criticism or judgment or an arched eyebrow, individually they mean very little, but collectively they can have an enormous effect. And I think what we're seeing here is an enormous sort of raised eyebrow about Caroline Flack as she became more and more isolated, more and more put on her own, and when you see messages played out in public forums on social media of her partner trying to reach out to her, breaking his ban essentially because they weren't allowed to talk to each other, there's something utterly heartbreaking about this. I mean, so heartbreaking.
It's tragic.
I mean, tragic. And I think everyone needs to pull for him massively.
And my heart is aching for the person that was with her that went to the shops.
Don't.
It's unimaginable. But listen, we really wanted to do this. It's a difficult one to do because you don't want to be in any way sensationalist, but we know that a lot of you guys do suffer with mental health issues, and we just wanted to say, whatever you're going through, there are people that you can talk to. We've put the numbers up here, and think, and then think again, and then reach out, and then reach out again.
Absolutely.
Because I think if she could see what was being said today, maybe that would have, how much love actually there was, and how much understanding for what she was going through. Yeah. We were recently at a funeral of somebody that took their life, and if only that person, picking carefully because I don't want to be over there, if only that person could have seen. But also, you know, we must never forget that this pain with mental health issues that can't be seen, that's what we've got to remember, it can't be seen. It can't be seen, but it's as painful as a broken leg or any other, like any horrific illness that you can think of. It can be as painful. I've spoken to people that have had cancer and have had mental health issues, and they've said, give me the cancer again rather than the mental health issues that I'm going through, because I can't bear the pain of it. So we just have to be more mindful.
And also, we can have massive compassion for someone with, say, a condition like diabetes or, you know, things like that, or, as you say, a broken leg or cancer. But that's understandable compassion because you can kind of see the evidence of the illness or condition. And because you know, just take a beat or take a pause. That even, I've always said this, even when people demonstrate extraordinary behavioural tics, more often than not, if they're bad behavioural tics, for want of a better expression, there's usually a reason and a cause and a concern and a crisis happening somewhere within that person. So do you know what I mean? Yes, that doesn't mean you tolerate bad behaviour, but I wish we could all just pause and just try and understand. I often use this with the girls and Donald Trump. Everyone goes on about how horrible Donald Trump is all the time. Even Donald Trump has reasons for why his behaviour is so fucking horrible sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Everyone is managing their own shit. Everyone is managing their own shit.
It's a really, really sad day, and you know, to her family and her friends and her work colleagues and everyone, just
Numbers below if anyone's struggling, and obviously comment below as well. All right, guys.
Yeah, we'll try and answer your comments if anyone's struggling today with this.
Okay.